This video is on risk analysis. Risk analysis is the process of identifying and analyzing potential issues that could negatively impact key business initiatives or projects. This process is done in order to help organizations avoid or mitigate those risks. Risk register is something that contains the list of all the risks, linked with the system, and all information regarding those risks. For example, their types to arrange them, mitigation factor, possibility of occurrence, impact to a business, and so forth. Risk heat map or risk matrix is a graphical representation where the individual values contained in the matrix are represented as colors that connotate a meaning. Simply put, it is used to present risk assessment results in an easy to understand, visually attractive, and concise format. Organizations must agree on a set of risk management key performance indicators in order to be successful. The impact and probability of each risk are assessed separately, and then the outcomes are joined to give an indication of exposure using some sort of scale. But after that, cybersecurity requirements will need to be created around that identified risk. You will need to examine different security controls that will be used to fill in all those risky areas. Risk control assessment determines if existing controls are compliant or non-compliant, and if it's cost-effective, and so forth. Risk control assessments are included in many regulatory frameworks and are designed to ensure reliability and integrity of information, confirm compliance across internal policies, external regulatory responsibilities, and safeguard assets. Risk control self-assessment process helps institutions assess how efficiently and economically they're being using resources and how closely teams are aligning with established objectives and goals. The exercise generates crucial information on operational risks and internal controls. Internal auditors and managers can use risk control self-assessment to judge the quality of control. Not only does it encourage management and staff to assume and share responsibility for internal controls, but also give organizations the opportunity to focus efforts on both informal and formal controls. And this is critical because technology is always changing. There is constant change with the type of risk that you have to prepare for. And there is also new risk that is emerging all the time. Preparing for this is being risk aware. Risk awareness is the ability to spot threats that could impact your business. Risk awareness means you can identify a whole range of threats and not just one or two most common threats. Inherent risk is the risk that exists in the absence of security control. This means that when there is no external influence, the system will experience a certain amount of risk. The reason a company implements countermeasures is to reduce overall risk to an acceptable level. As no system or environment is 100% secure, which means there is always some risk left over to deal with, you're going to have residual risk. This is a risk that remains after risk responses have been documented and performed. We also have control risk, also called internal control risk. The common internal control risks in business include lack of sound internal control environment, poorly designed business processes, IT security risk, integrity and ethics risk, human errors, and fraud risk, among others. How much risk you're willing to take depends on your risk appetite. Risk appetite is the amount of risk an organization is willing to take in pursuit of objectives it deems have value. It can be described as an organization's risk capacity, or the maximum amount of residual risk it will accept after controls and other measures have been put in place. From an IT perspective, there's also an extensive number of regulations affecting cybersecurity posture. Many of these regulations are associated with protecting someone's critical, sensitive, and financial information. HIPAA, for example, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, is a board regulation that covers many different areas. From the risk and security perspective, it provides privacy of patient records. The record includes information from other sources, storage requirements, network security, and how to protect the information against threats. We also have GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, European Union-based data protection, and privacy regulation. All these risks are broken down into two types, qualitative and quantitative. To subjectively figure out the impact of an action which affects a business or program is known as qualitative risk assessment. Experience and expert judgments are needed to perform this type of assessment. To objectively figure out the impact of an action which affects a business or program is known as qualitative risk assessment. In order to perform this assessment, the use of models and metrics are involved. The likelihood of occurrence, which can be quantitative or qualitative, is the probability of specific danger occurring. When qualitatively stated, the likelihood of recurrence is usually described on an annual basis in order to compare it to other yearly measurements. It is utilized to generate rank order results if it's described quantitatively. Impact can be numerous things, from financial gain loss, variation in reputation, unavailability and degradation of IT systems, and much more. Impact in a healthcare industry can be caused by things like unavailability of the systems. Any system malfunction can result in victims' damage or death. This impact can be calculated to ensure there's a number and severity level attached to it. Usually it's going to have an asset value, the amount of money that is required to equate the value of an asset. The term asset value is commonly used with the term exposure factor for determination of SLE, single loss expectancy, which refers to the loss value that is expected from an event. For measuring the risk assessment value, any methods can be adopted by the user. Simple technique is used to calculate L, annualized loss expectancy, that generates the financial value of impact, and its calculation starts with the measurement of SLE, single loss expectancy. Mathematical formula for calculating SLE is SLE equals asset value times exposure factor. The determination of the amount of loss of resource is called exposure factor. Or we can say it is a measurement of risk level of an asset, how much it is at risk. AL, or annualized loss expectancy, is determined by multiplying SLE and ARO after SLE has been calculated. ARO stands for annualized rate of occurrence, and it refers to the period of time the event is supposed to take place in a year. ARO is the amount of time the event takes to occur in a year or less. It can be called event's frequency in a standard year. If the event takes place twice in 15 years, the ARO is 2 divided by 15.